Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden once again. We're going to head up towards Gothenburg, Göteborg as you'd say in Swedish, which as I've told you many a time is the Swedish craft beer capital. And we've got another brewery who I haven't tried anything from yet, so very curious to see how this one turns out. So for this review we are going to go to Wizard Brewing and we're having a taste of the Gramobaloophone, which comes in at 4.5%, and this one is a Berliner Weisse, and they've added mangoes, raspberries and passion fruits to this one, so should be really quite nice. This brewery so far have only produced around 8 different beers. If you check it out on Untappd, I'm filming this review for you incidentally in August of 2019. So far they've only released 8 beers. 7 of them are Berliner Weisses, basically with different fruits added, and they've also got an Imperial Stout in there as well. So it seems to be a style that this brewery quite like doing. It's a popular style of course these days with breweries that are trying to kind of break into the sour market and stuff, but very curious to see how this one turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery and the breweries here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Wizard Brewing. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Wizard Brewing. Let's make sure it's there. So yeah, as I mentioned to you earlier, Wizard Brewing are based in the Gothenburg area, and they were founded back it's basically been founded as a new brand by Nicholas Sarcevich, who plays in the band Millencolin, and he's the founder of Mikrofon, and you've also got Jonas Gustafsson in there from Morgendagens Brewery. If you translate that into English, basically Tomorrow's Brewery. But apparently the pair first met at the All In Beer Festival back in 2017, and they became very good friends after this. They were regularly meeting up for about a year. They collaborated together and released a beer called Send In The Clowns as a collaboration between the two breweries, but then they decided they wanted to make a fully joint venture, which officially began in January of 2019, and they say that under this Wizard beer name, or Wizard Brewing name, they want to release or brew roughly around 80,000 litres of beer over 2019 and expand it further in the coming years. But the brewery itself is based in Kungston, and they've invested heavily in fermentation tanks quite recently to get their capacity up. You'll actually find these guys very, very close to where Bibliotek are now located. But they also hope to be able to open up a pub at the brewery very soon as well. The artwork on these cans of course is quite distinctive. It's designed by Alexander Jansson, but recently they had a bit of an issue with Systembolaget, who said that the labels were aimed at children, whereas the actual intention was just that the labels were supposed to be kind of fantasy themed. But this particular beer was actually one that did not pass the Systembolaget controls because of this. And you know, in some ways you can see where Systembolaget are coming from, because you know they've got the people at Systembolaget have to stick to the laws. The alcohol laws in Sweden are very strict. It's frustrating for the brewery, because obviously you know it is just fantasy related, this one, and you know. It's not that I don't think children really go into Systembolaget, to be honest with you, but you know it's an interesting point to take, because the artwork on these cans I think is really nice. If you look at the artwork on all the other ones, it is really, really quite cool. The guys at Systembolaget are still kind of sticking to their job, but it's a bit of a shame for them because they've had to spend a lot of money actually you know, rejigging the artwork and things like that. The artist has had to go in and change the artwork. So an interesting point to make about this brewery is you might see this beer with a couple of different labels. There was also a collaboration beer that they've had to change the artwork on as well, but oddly enough their other one of their other beers, I forget the name of it now, but one of their main flagship beers actually did pass the controls, and the artwork isn't, you know, a million miles away from this. It's actually quite close to that. So yeah, Systembolaget can be a little bit picky. I know there's been names of a few beers, you know, there's been names of a few beers kind of changed and things like that in Sweden, which is, yeah, kind of strange. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery for the moment. A brewery that's becoming very well regarded. They seem to really like their Berliner Weisses, so you know, make sure you check them out on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. You can keep up to date with all the latest goings on there, and of course you can check out the brewery website if you want to learn a little bit more. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. It does actually remind you a little bit of Up, you know, the Pixar film, so yeah, it's interesting to think about that. But yeah, really nicely presented beer, this one. The artwork on this is absolutely lovely, and you can see on the back here, there it mentions Alexander Janssen that I was talking about, and Mikrofon Begeriet, and also Morgendagens. I don't think I've actually tried anything from Morgendagens yeah, so maybe I'll need to put that into Systembolag's website and see if I can order anything from these guys. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Like I said, a 4.5% Berliner Weiss, and it comes in with, it has a little bit of mango, halon, raspberries and passion fruit added to it. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this. And I can tell you something, the smell on this beer already is absolutely awesome. But we'll check that out in a little minute. That beer looks pretty damn good, I have to say. So yeah, so as you can see then, this beer has poured, that's a really kind of, it's almost like a red grapefruit juice colour, right? Well no, it's actually even brighter than that, it's almost like tomato juice colour, something like that. It's a very, very brightly coloured Berliner Weiss, this one. That's really, really cool actually. So the passion fruits and what was the other one that was in there? The mangoes. You know, they're going to give you a sort of yellowish colour. So the colour that's coming out of here will mainly be from the raspberries, I would think. And you know, I'm very familiar with raspberries. Raspberries back home in Scotland are, you know, a big deal. We absolutely love desserts with raspberries and all of that kind of thing on them. So yeah, it's really, this is really nice actually, the colour of this beer. But yeah, really bright sort of red kind of colour. I don't know how else to describe that, but one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. You could see there was a half finger of a kind of creamy sort of sort of pinky creamy coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles heading up to the side of the glass, but you know, mainly not too much carbonation visible in this one. Usually these beers are fairly crisp though. But let's take a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Oh, that's nice. Right, I use this descriptor a hell of a lot because it's what it really reminds me of. This reminds me of the Munch Bunch yogurts. I forget what company it is that does that. It's maybe Petit Filou. But my mum always used to put these little yogurts in my lunchbox when I went to school. Munch Bunch they were called, and you had an apricot one, and you had apricot, strawberry, and raspberry. And to me, it actually really, this beer smells like a mishmash of all three of them. But the raspberries, the first thing you're going to notice with this beer, the tartness of the raspberries really jumps out at you straight away. So there's a little bit of tartness there and you can smell that. It's quite sharp at the front of the nose, but then the juiciness that you get in behind that is really, really nice as well. For me, the passion fruits aren't coming out all that much. If you on the back end of the nose you can pick them out a little bit, but I think what's happening is the mango is kind of smoothing the aroma out of this one really quite nicely. But for me it's the raspberries that are dominating the aroma here. Like I say, the mango I think is smoothing out the passion fruit a little bit, and you can smell a little bit of that underneath, but to me it's the raspberries that really dominate the aroma of this one. Underneath that you can pick up a little bit of an aroma from the wheat, and I suspect that the mangoes and the passion fruit are kind of, you know, mixing in with all that wheaty quality in there. And I think the grassy side of there is a bit of a grassiness to this beer as well. Usually with a Berliner Weisse you'll use, you know, Hallertauer, Tettnanger hops. You probably can use a little bit of Perl or Hercules, one of the slightly higher alpha acid hops too. Czech Sats would be another one, but I don't think if it's a Berliner Weisse, I think you are more likely to use one of the German hops, or even though the Sats are, or the Žatec hops as the Czechs call them, are very, very similar in properties. You've of course got Lubelski from Poland as well. But yeah, lovely smelling beer this one. I mean, the way that the fruit comes across in this beer aroma is all about the fruit, particularly the raspberries, as I said. The Berliner Weisses, they're usually not too complex in terms of aroma, they're usually pretty easy going, and this one's just that lovely juicy raspberries. You can feel you can detect the mango kind of bringing that, sort of smoothing the beer out a little bit. You can get a little bit of the passion fruity, the more pungenty passion fruit in the back end of the nose, some grassiness from the hops, and a lovely sort of white bready base to the beer almost, and maybe even just a little slight touch of biscuity notes, and it almost smells a little bit yogurty in my mind as well. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and get stuck into the aroma of the beer, because that's always half the experience when it comes to craft beers and things like that. But let's have a taste of this one now then and see how we go on. This one is the Gramobaloophone from Wizard Brewing, a collaboration brewery between Mortendogens and Mikrofronbegäret in the Gothenburg area. A Berliner Weisse at 4.5%, raspberries, mangoes and passion fruit. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Ooh, that's very, very smooth. And I tell you something, when you take that in, it does give you a nice bite. It really does give you a nice sour kick in the balls, basically. That's a good beer. That's a good sour, that. Thumbs up to the guys at Wizard for this one. I'm curious to see, actually. As I say, I've not tried anything from Mortendogens, but I remember the beers that I've had from Mikrofronbegäret, I'm sure have both been sort of IPAs and pale ales. I'm sure I've reviewed 2 from these guys now. So it'd be interesting to see if maybe they use Wizard as their sour beer brand. I don't know what Mortendogens do right enough, and I'll need to take a look at that. But it's an interesting point to make about this brewery, actually. But this is a really good Berliner Weisse. I like this one. If you like your Berliner Weisses to be a little bit more kind of sharp and juicy, this is one that you are going to enjoy. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, the first sip is almost a little bit puckering, to be honest with you. But then after that, you really, this beer really smooths out nicely and gives you everything you'd want from the style. Just be aware of that on the first sip. It will kind of give you a good kick, this beer. But yeah, I mean, so let's kind of start from the malt base then. The malt base, as you'd expect, it's fairly straightforward. You can feel a little bit of a pale malt in there. There's a nice sort of wheaty smoothness as well. And like I was saying, there's almost a bit of a yogurty quality to this one too. What does it say? Who they've added to it? It doesn't say. It says, yeah, barley and wheat, which is what you'd expect. But it doesn't seem to be that they've added anything else to it. But yeah, it definitely has, this beer really, for me at least, does have this really interesting kind of yogurty character in the middle of the palate. It almost becomes a little touch woody later on, and then in the very centre of the tongue you've got a little bit of a slightly biscuity note, but that's very, very minimal to me. It's the wheat that forms the middle of the palate, and it's got a little bit of a yogurty base to it, which is nice. But yeah, that's a solid Berliner Weisse. That the thing that's a bit dangerous about these is you could easily just drink them like juice. I wish I had another can of this, because I've been trying to get my mother into beer for ages. She just doesn't like it, but I've got a feeling she likes sour raspberries. I've got a feeling that I might be able to convert her with one of these, actually. So something going forward, actually. I'll need to get another one of these before I go home. But yeah, this is really, really nice. So on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate you can pick up a little touch of earthiness there, that typical noble hoppy earthiness. As you come further forward then, you can pick up, there is a little teensy bit of grassiness there, but it's actually coming to my mind that it doesn't say they've added hops to this beer, and the hoppy qualities of this one are that minimal that you wonder if they've added any. And that's one of the things I do think, if they haven't, from what I gather, you are supposed to add hops to pardon me, a Berliner Weisse. So that's interesting, because you do pick up a little touch of earthiness and grassiness in this one, and you do pick it up in the aroma as well. So that's an interesting point to make. It's unusual that not to add at least a little bit of Tettnang or Hallertau to a Berliner Weisse. But yeah, the fruity side of the beer then, as I always say, when you add fruit to a beer, it always comes out around the kind of front edge of the tongue. So for me, you can really feel the raspberry. It's the raspberry again that's dominating the flavour. You can pick the raspberries kind of go from the front corners of your palate all the way around. You can definitely pick up a nice little bit of of the mangoes in there. The passion fruit for me isn't too obvious in this one. I don't pick up that much of the passion fruit at all, really. But what you'll always get with a Berliner Weisse is when you actually add fruit to the beer, it will suppress a little bit of the green side of the hops in this one. But like I say, if there's not hops in this one, which it tastes like there, there might not be. There is a little teeny bit of an almost earthy quality in the back corners of my palate. Maybe that could be placebo effect or something, because I suspect that when you try beer styles enough, that you do expect certain things and you can find them in the flavour a little bit. But for me, this one, it really doesn't taste as if it's got hops in it, and it doesn't say, so I would assume that it doesn't. And that's an interesting twist for the Berliner Weisse style. I would have thought you would always put a little bit of Hallertau or Tettnanger or something in there, because you do expect this style to have a little bit of a grassy hop quality to it. So yeah, it's interesting. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Actually, another interesting point to make. But like I say, this is a really solid Berliner Weisse for me. In terms of comparing it to other ones, it's a little bit more sort of yogurty and smooth, but at the same time it has a little bit more, it's a little bit further up the sharper end of the scale, which is really interesting. So bear that in mind. But a lovely beer, this one, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink that again. In fact, I maybe think I could even convert my mum into beer with this one, to be honest with you. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would describe this beer as being I would describe this beer as being kind of mid-bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth on this one. This beer really leans towards the oily end of the spectrum in terms of its mouthfeel. No real hoppy bitterness to this beer. I think you'd be lucky if you get about 5 IBUs out of this one generally, because your malt base and stuff can contribute to it right enough. And the fruits, the sourness of the fruits, I guess, will, sourness is bitterness at the same time. So yeah, there will be a little bit of that in there. But yeah, you've got a lovely sharpness to the fruitiness in this one, but it becomes a little bit more juicy and a little bit smoother as well. So overall, this is a really interesting Berliner Weisse, this one. I've not come across one that's quite like this before. So I think I need to try a few of the other things from Wizard Brewing and just see how they come across. I think I can get these at the Systembolaget in Malmö, if memory serves me correctly. So I need to look into that, actually. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This is a really, really nice Berliner Weisse, and it makes me want to kind of keep an eye on this brewery and try some of the other things that they've done. They do have an Imperial Stout, and I'd be very curious to see how that one turns out, actually. But I will try a few of the other Berliner Weisses from these guys over the coming months and things like that. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Gramobaloophone from Wizard Brewing in Gothenburg here in Sweden. A really, really nice Berliner Weisse. This one a bit unusual because it doesn't seem to have hops in it in my mind, but it does go together pretty nicely, actually. So let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Wizard Brewing as well, and I'm sure I'll catch you guys very soon with more beer reviews, and we will definitely be returning to this brewery. You will see me review more from Mikrofon Begariet as well, and I'm going to try to see if I can get a hold of my first beers from Morgendagens as well. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys later. The Gramobaloophone from Wizard Brewing in Gothenburg. Slange, skål.